Welcome back to the PTPT series. In this episode, I thought it would be good to go through some recovery tips because now that we've all been back in the gym for a couple of weeks, I thought it would be a good time to let you know what you can be doing to make yourself feel a bit better. In this one, it's going to be slightly different to what I personally watch because most of the things that I personally watch, they go into the sort of granular detail, and that's great for some people, but for most people I feel like the general sort of tips that they can implement here and there are best because they're definitely what I appreciate, and I'll do the odd thing here and there that sort of changes things by a small percentage, but mainly I want the main things that are going to actually benefit my recovery. I don't want all the sort of fluffy kind of, oh yeah, take this supplement or anything. That's great for some, but that's not who I'm targeting this video at. If you're looking for a really detailed, sort of in-depth, want to know everything, then yeah, this isn't the video for you. But if you want some general tips to kind of boost your recovery, feel a little bit better throughout the day, then this is the video for you. So yeah, going back to why we're starting the video at the very end and why it's night time, I'm about to go to bed, is because I wanted to highlight the importance of sleep, because there is nothing else in this world that is going to help your recovery more than your sleep. If you can get your sleep nailed down, then you're golden. All the other stuff is a bonus. If you don't have your sleep down, you can do all the other stuff, but you still won't feel amazing. So yeah, I just wanted to highlight that before we get into the actual video. But let me take you through sort of kind of going to be a bit of a, like, almost a day in the life kind of thing. But yeah, just sort of like my things that I'm thinking about throughout the day. I'm going to take you through my day, and yeah, and then I'll see you again in a minute for what I do to kind of help my sleep and the tips that I have for you to help your sleep as well. So getting into the video now. Okay, so recovery. First thing we're going to start off with is before you train or after you've just woken up. For me, that is two in the same, because just after I wake up in the morning, the first thing that I'm doing is going to train. However, I will say that I used to train before I'd eaten anything, and therefore training fasted. But recently what I've been doing is having a small snack beforehand. Specifically, that snack is including some carbohydrates and some protein. It's done absolute wonders for me, so I would highly recommend it to everyone else. I used to think I was fine with training fasted, but now sort of seeing that difference and kind of trying out this new way of doing things, or this, yeah, new way for me at least, I'm seeing a big improvement in my sessions, so I would recommend it to all of you as well. Now, I am also mentioning this because obviously when I first wake up in the morning, the first thing I'm doing is training, so therefore they're the same thing. Like I said, if you're training later in the day, try and sort of like implement that same thing. Try and have some carbohydrates and some protein before you train. Give it at least half an hour to digest, but I mean, anything from between like 2 hours and half an hour before, you're probably good. It's probably going to be in your system well enough, but yeah, that's just depending on how much time you have beforehand. What I will also add is, if you're not training first thing in the morning, what you should really be doing is, well, I'm not about to tell you what to do, but my advice to you would be to get out first thing in the morning and go for a walk, especially when it's a nice day like today. It's nice, bright and sunny. What that does is that kickstarts your circadian rhythm, which is basically just a fancy word for your internal body clock. So when you wake up from your sleep, getting some daylight basically tells your body that you're awake, so it kind of gets all the things going inside your head and inside your body, telling you that you've woken up, and yeah, just kickstarts your system. So that's what I would recommend. If you're not training first thing in the morning, go for a walk. If you are training first thing in the morning, try and get a little bit of food in beforehand. I know what it's like, because yeah, first thing in the morning you don't want to have a massive meal, especially if you're about to go and train straight away, but that's my advice to you. Make sure you have something small, and if not, go for a walk. Go for a walk first thing in the morning, get some daylight. Now, with training, especially in the mornings, what you'll find is you might find some use in some supplementation via some caffeine. Now, I have a pre-workout. That was really loud. I have a pre-workout. It's Redcon's Total War. That's the one I'm using at the moment, at least. And it has, I should really remember this off the top of my head. Caffeine, 100 milligrams of caffeine per scoop. Yeah. What am I talking about? I'm reading the wrong fucking line. It has 250 milligrams of caffeine per scoop. So it's kind of, I think that's on the heavy side. I don't think it's the sort of weakest, but it's also not the strongest, because you can get way stronger than that, like 350 plus in a single scoop. But yeah, I have a scoop of that before I train in the morning. It kind of wakes me up. I'm becoming quite reliant on it, which is a massive concern and something that I would recommend not doing, becoming reliant on caffeine. However, it's fine to do that first thing in the morning because you're so far away from your sleep time that by having your caffeine, it's not going to interfere with your sleep later on in the evening. Whereas if you're training later in the evening, say you train after work at 5, 6 o'clock, don't have some caffeine then. It might interfere with your sleep. It will interfere with your sleep, to be honest. Like, scientifically, it just will. But yeah, you can look into other pre-workouts, like pump products, but that's besides the point for this video, I think. So yeah, first thing in the morning, have some caffeine if you want before you train, via any means. If you want a nice tasting pre-workout, have that. If you want a cup of coffee, have that. Do what you want to do. But yeah, I am going to show you me training now because I kind of fucked up with some of the video for this. I didn't film anything before because I was running a bit late this morning, so now you're seeing me train. Have fun. I had a good session. It was lower today, so yeah, I will see you in a minute. So right after training is when you want to chill out and relax. So you kind of want to, some people call it flipping the switch, which is like, some people play classical music. I get annoyed by my girlfriend. So yeah, each person has their own different things to kind of chill out and relax after their training session. But yeah, a couple of things you can do is, I don't know, you can try listening to classical music in the car on the way home. I personally don't do that because it doesn't really help me, but the main thing that you want to focus on is kind of bringing your heart rate down. So if you've got like a Fitbit or an Apple Watch or something, you can use that. You kind of just want to come back down to your resting heart rate. For me, that's around about 50 BPM at the moment. It's not quite there for you, is it? But yeah, you wanna bring your heart rate down, and then once it is down, you want to have your post-workout meal, which again, similar to your like pre-workout meal, which I was talking about just before we went to the gym. You want to have some carbs and you want to have some protein.
Is that why you had chocolate pancakes?
Chocolate pancakes, yes I did. I had M&S's chocolate pancakes. You do realise it's only half your head that's going to be in the shot.
Yeah.
Okay, good. But yeah, that's pretty much it. What you want to do after training, just kind of chill out, relax a little bit, try and sort of flip that switch as soon as you can, because obviously you've been in a state of like higher heart rate.
What?
During your training, so yeah, bring the heart rate down. Once that's done, have something to eat. And yeah, and the next thing we're going to go through is stimulants such as caffeine and when and where you should have them in your day. So while I wait for this to cool down, I should probably talk about coffee, or caffeine more like. I like my coffee, so I need to think about this, or I need to consider what impact the caffeine from my coffee is going to have on the rest of my day, and more specifically, or most specifically, my sleep in the evening. Basically, to get a little bit nerdy with you for a second, caffeine has a half-life of, I believe, around 8 to 10 hours, which basically means after 8 to 10 hours, you're still going to have half of the amount of caffeine that you've consumed still in your system. So you don't want a lot of caffeine in your system just before you're sleeping, because it's going to raise your heart rate, and therefore it's going to be a bit more difficult to get to sleep. Hence why you don't see people, or sensible people, having a coffee just before they go to sleep. Now, what you can do, you can use that 8 to 10 hours and kind of like work backwards throughout your day. So for me, I know I usually go to sleep between about the hours of 10 p.m. and midnight. So if I work backwards, if I'm on the sort of more cautious side and I work back 10 hours, then that basically means that my caffeine cut-off point should be at midday, because 10 hours after midday, I'm going to be wanting to go to sleep. Now, I personally have a cut-off of around 8 hours before I sleep, so currently it is 1:16, and therefore I can have this coffee just before my cut-off at 2 p.m, because 8 hours until I sleep at, say, 10. I never go to sleep at 10, to be honest, but it's close to midnight. But yeah, just to be on the safe side, if I do fall asleep at 10, then I know that at least most of the caffeine that I've consumed throughout the day is now out of my system, and it's not going to interfere with my sleep, which, as we know, is the most important thing for recovery. So yeah, it's another tip for you. Just think about the things that you're doing throughout the day. Think about the things you're doing, and think about the things that you're consuming that are potentially raising your heart rate. Probably don't want to be doing them too close to your bedtime, because yeah, it's going to interfere with your sleep. It might be a bit more tricky to actually fall asleep. But yeah, that is enough time. I think this has cooled down enough now, so I'm going to drink it. And yeah, moving on to the next tip, I guess. And we're back just before bedtime. Time to give you some tips to do with your sleep. Now, I want to start this by saying sleep could be a whole video on its own, but I kind of wanted to give you 5 sort of quick tips that can help your sleep now, and then I'm sure later on down the line I want to do a video on just sleep. So yeah, if you're looking for like a more detailed video, that is potentially coming in the future. If you want it, let me know, because obviously I'll make it sooner for you, but until then, just wait on that, and there'll be a bigger video coming. But anyway, the 5 tips I have for you, some are more common than others, so yeah, let me just get into it now. First tip I'm going to have is aim to get at least 7 to 9 hours a night, and make sure that sort of time slot where you're sleeping is consistent. So if you go to bed every day at the same time and wake up at the same time every morning, you're going to feel a lot better. Just try it out. If you're not doing it at the moment, start and see if you can notice a difference. I can almost guarantee you will. But yeah, that's my first tip for you. It kind of just helps, I think I mentioned it earlier in the video, to do with your circadian rhythm, and that's kind of your like internal body clock, and if you keep that consistent, it will just do you the world of good. So that is tip number 1, 7 to 9 hours a night, and make sure that you're going to bed at the same time, waking up at the same time every morning as well. Okay, so tip number 2 is try to consume all of your like calories and your liquids, basically any food and drink, 1.5 hours before bed. Can be 1 hour as well, but basically what you don't want to be doing is like digesting something heavy too close to your bedtime, because that will kind of interfere with your sleep, and yeah, you'll probably find that your sleep quality kind of drops a little bit if you're also digesting during that time frame as well. So that is tip number 2. Try and eat 1.5 hours and drink 1.5 hours before you go to bed. Okay, so tip number 3 is to try and relax before you kind of put your head down to bed. Something that I like to do is like once I've had my last like bit of food, I will kind of try and not do anything sort of too strenuous after that. So basically just before bed, I like to read on my Kindle. That kind of brings your heart rate down, because that's what you want to do. That's the main point of this. You want to bring your heart rate down so you're kind of ready to sleep, and yeah, in a state where you're going to fall asleep quicker. And yeah, there's plenty of things that you can do, but overall just try and chill out after you've had something to eat. and just before bed, really. Okay, quick tip number 4 is try and sleep in a cool environment. So that basically don't have your radiators on, like when you're trying to sleep, don't have your heating on when you're trying to sleep. What you want to be doing is kind of sleeping in a very cold, not very cold, but like a colder environment. That's probably why you find it hard to sleep in the summer, and you can do all sorts of things. You can spray your pillow with a little bit of like water if you want. Something else that you can do is you can have like a hot shower or a hot bath before you go to bed. And I can't say that I do this much, if ever, to be honest, because yeah, I shower in the mornings and I don't really tend to shower before bed to help me sleep. But yeah, you can give it a go if you want. What this does is, as you step out of that hot bath or shower, your body temperature drops, and therefore you're kind of putting yourself into that cooler environment. You're tricking your body almost into kind of getting into that cooler environment, promoting a good sort of like feeling for sleep. So yeah, give that a try. And that's tip number 4. Try and sleep in a cooler environment. Okay, and tip number 5, I'm sure everyone is well aware of if they've followed anything in the fitness industry, and that is get yourself some blue light blockers. Mine are dirty at the moment, they need a clean. But if you are struggling to sleep, this could be something that you could potentially implement. Not too expensive. I think I got these for like just under £20. I think they were like 17 quid off of Amazon. And they seem to work like, okay, I can't lie, I've been terrible with it recently and I haven't been putting them on, but basically what you want to do is put these on as the sun goes down. And basically what it does is it blocks out the blue light from any screens that you're watching. So if you're watching TV, or if you're on your phone, your laptop or anything in the evenings, what this will do is it will stop that blue light, and the blue light is basically keeping you awake in short. So yeah, again, this kind of links back to your like circadian rhythm. In the mornings you want to sort of get loads of daylight in, sort of tell your body to wake up, and then in the evenings you kind of want to tell it, no, I'm going to bed, it's dark now, let's cut out the screens, let's cut out the blue light, and yeah, get ready for bed. So yeah, that's tip number 5. If you are really struggling, then potentially look into blue light blockers. You can find loads on Amazon. That's my 5 tips for now. There's loads of other stuff, there's like supplementation, but I don't want to get into that, to be honest, 'cause to be honest, personally, I haven't gone into it myself. Like, if I ever like try out myself, I'll be happy to share my experience with it, but I'm not about to kind of start sharing anything like that. I'm happy to share sort of like the hot shower and stuff, because that makes sense and I can kind of make sense of it in my own head, but things to do with like supplementing like melatonin or something, I'm not about to start chatting about that if I haven't done it myself. So yeah, that is the video wrapped up there anyways. For recovery, I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have any more tips, or if you have any questions about recovery, anything that I've said, if you think I've gotten something wrong, if you've think I could expand on something, please do let me know, either in the comments or over on my Instagram. I'm now doing a Q&A every Monday and Friday, so if you do have any questions and you want to save them for then feel free. But yeah, until next time, I will see you then.